Hello everyone and welcome into another edition of the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is your host, Christopher Shepard. Thank you all for tuning in on this lovely Monday afternoon here in the tri-state area. And today we have a great show ahead. We begin by recapping last night's AFC Championship game. What a wild game it was. What an inevitable game it was as the Chiefs continue their run towards a three-peat by vanquishing the Bills yet again in the postseason. Then we transition into the world of college football, recapping a little bit of the season, starting off by looking at the top 5 players of the year in terms of college football, then looking at our 2 CFP semifinalists and asking the question, what is next for both of them? And we conclude today's show by looking at the Champions League, the state of affairs across the pond in that competition as we head into the final league phase games. But before we get into any of that fun stuff, I do want to remind you all to like, follow, and subscribe to the show and the network if you haven't done so already. It is greatly appreciated by all. It's a great way to keep up to date with all of our new content around the network as well. But if you want to contribute and interact a little bit more directly with our shows while we are live streaming, consider making yourselves available to the Super Thanks, Super Chat, and Super Stickers features here on YouTube, as well as our website, gsmcpodcast.net. You can do one or two things: either leave any questions, comments, or concerns you have about the show, and I'm glad to read them on air. I appreciate all your feedback, or leave a tip or donation as well if you do feel so inclined. It is greatly appreciated as well, concerning our entire show and network, but also just makes our shows that much better, and we truly appreciate it. Without further ado, let's recap the inevitability of the Chiefs beating the Bills in the postseason. For the 4th time in his career, Patrick Mahomes has beaten Josh Allen when it matters the most, and now he is making history in the process. The Chiefs become the first team attempting a three-peat to reach the Super Bowl for the 3rd time after winning the previous 2. It is the 7th straight AFC Championship appearance for Patrick Mahomes, and we are witnessing NFL history. But ultimately, this was perhaps the best of the Mahomes-Allen rivalry when it came to the postseason, because both of them were on their respective games in this one as well. And the way I want to recap this game is by talking about what the Bills did well in this one rather than what they didn't do well, because for all intents and purposes, the Bills were right there. They should have won this game. But there were a couple of things that the Bills couldn't do that the Chiefs prepared for more well than I thought they would. This was the ultimate separator in this game. So let's talk first about the Chiefs and their success in this game. Then let's talk about what the Bills did well and what they didn't do well. But first of all, we have to congratulate the Kansas City Chiefs. No matter how much we love or hate them, they are truly a dynasty. Let us get the job done when it matters most. And Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Harrison Butker, what have you, they just get the job done in the regular season. And I just feel like this game was the perfect microcosm of what the Kansas City Chiefs can do in a championship setting. And the biggest stage, they scored the most points they had all season, and had a game plan that simply proved too much for the Bills. Yet again, it was brilliant. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes' play in this game. Methodical, yet finished the job. 1826 passing, 246 yards, 1 touchdown, and on the ground he had, I believe, 39 yards and 2 touchdowns, none bigger than the one that gave them the lead. Ultimately proved to be a little bit more shockingly mobile than Josh Allen this game. His mobility, rather, making the difference for the Chiefs in this one as well. And then on the other side of things, Steve Spagnuolo, kudos to him. Every single time, he knows the right time to send pressure. And the Bills simply couldn't handle it when it mattered most in the critical moments, especially on those 4th down sneaks they consistently tried running with Josh Allen to no avail. The Chiefs were just very prepared for that in that department. In terms of receiving threats, in terms of role players stepping up. There really wasn't one role player who I can point out and say they were the superstar that supplemented this all-around game for the Chiefs. I think Xavier Worthy had an incredible game, making some timely catches, none more so than that one in the first quarter that sustained a touchdown drive for the Chiefs. But also, you look at the contributions from a guy like Kareem Hunt. You look at the contributions from a guy like Isaiah Pacheco in the receiving game. You look at the contributions from, say, Juju Smith-Schuster, up and down that offensive roster. And you have to say, the Chiefs are well equipped in terms of depth for any situation. And Andy Reid knows that he may not have the most talent at each respective position on the offensive side of the football, but he knows that they can come up in big moments and deliver for him. And he trusts each and every single one of them. None more so than Samaje Perine, who on that pivotal third down, or I believe it was a second down actually, caught a pass after not catching a pass at all throughout the entire game. That's how much Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes trust the players around them and trust the infrastructure to get the job done. So ultimately, when you look at the Chiefs' performance in this one, it came down to timely plays made by veteran players and decisions made by coaches who trust whoever is on the field, whether it be Steve Spagnuolo trusting the blitz to get home on Josh Allen at 4th and 5, or Andy Reid trusting Mahomes a lot more in terms of his mobility and how that could be a difference in this game than he had all season long. That was the reason the Chiefs came out on top. But let's talk about their opponents, the Buffalo Bills, because they defined this game as much as the Chiefs did, rather. In fact, they had more yards than the Chiefs. They had less turnovers than the Chiefs. In fact, there was only one turnover in this entire game, which was really shocking to me because you see all these teams in the postseason winning the turnover margin and thus winning the game. And this is the only game in the entire playoffs where the team who did not win the turnover margin won the game, even though there was only one turnover and it did not matter in the slightest. But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills and the success they had in this game. First and foremost, let's talk about Josh Allen's performance. There were some moments where it looked like he would revert back to the Josh Allen of old, some shaky throws, a little bit of nervousness to start this game, but then he settled down and then he really played pretty well. Solid game out of Josh Allen, 22 of 34, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, of course. And then in the second half of this game, they let James Cook, cook for lack of a better term, 13 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. So ultimately, in the first half, they really tried to complement Josh Allen by giving him the big plays needed to keep up with Patrick Mahomes. And then in the second half, to get back into the game, they really started dominating in the run game, and it really cooled down this Chiefs defense a lot to the point where they weren't getting as much pressure as they were used to. But then there were very, very questionable decisions, and this is where the Bills did not perform up to par in this game. Firstly, all the times, and I get that this is one of your best plays in short yard situations, especially on 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts, the consistent Josh Allen sneaks. Because clearly, at some point, when the Chiefs stop you, force you to the left side like they did all game long, for that number of times, you have to switch it up. You have the versatility and depth in your backfield and in your receiving core to get the job done. But they didn't necessarily trust guys like Cook, guys like Davis in the backfield to get the job done in a short yardage situation. And that's kind of what hurt them. If they had a little bit more variance in what they called in those short yardage situations, we would be saying the Bills would be going to the Super Bowl. Look at that that 2-point conversion, rather. The 2-point where they went up by 1 point, 22-21, and had they just kicked the extra point, they very likely could have won this game because they'd be up by 2, and they would be forcing the Chiefs' hands a little bit on that drive where ultimately that 4th and 1 call came into play. But they didn't have an ambitious play call on the 2-point conversion. They truly believed that Josh Allen would be able to get in on that run play, but in that moment, it did not look so. And he pitched it back for some reason, and to no avail. And so that loss of momentum on those QB sneaks really came back to hurt them. But then I want to talk about one specific play on the Bills' final drive that basically summed up why they can't get over the hump. So basically, 3:33 left, Harrison Butker just kicked what turned out to be the game-winning field goal. So this drive for the Bills is either to tie the game, potentially send it into overtime, or, leave Patrick Mahomes enough to make your heart break in a more difficult manner, or to win this football game. The first play on 1st and 10 the Bills run is an outside handoff to Ty Johnson. I don't know about you, but if I were driving to beat a rival that I hadn't beaten for 3 times in the postseason, and this was my best chance of doing so, and my running backs have been playing very well all game long, and you have one of the best deep ball throwers in the league in Josh Allen, your first play is to a underutilized rookie running back to get your drive going, get the momentum going, and he lost 1 yard. So now what that does is allow the Chiefs to employ whatever 3-play package they feel comfortable with to shut you down. They won that first down. And that's what the Bills had to do in that moment. They had to win the first and second downs. And yes, they ultimately got some yardage back on that second down and then stalled down in third and fourth. But had that first down play been a little bit more imaginative, a little bit more creative, then chances are the Bills would have had a real chance of getting something out of that drive. Even if it was just a field goal, and even if Patrick Mahomes drove him the field. At least they would have shown the initiative. But they didn't, and that play truly hurt them. So ultimately, when I look at this game, the Bills did so many things well, but the Chiefs just executed better in critical moments. And that's why they've been to 7 straight conference championships. That's why they're going back to their 3rd straight Super Bowl, the first team to do so after winning the previous 2 and attempting to three-peat. They've won so many one-possession games, a streak of 17 such games thus far. And the reason why we're calling them perhaps one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history. And they are making NFL history during this streak because no other team, not since, say, the early 30s Green Bay Packers, when it was still the NFL Championship, was there a dynasty such as this, where they were going into a 3rd Super Bowl and trying to win that game after winning the previous 2. So this is NFL history no matter what way you slice it, no matter if you love them or if you hate them. They are making history at this very moment, and potentially that's all that matters to them. They don't care about outside noise. They just care about getting the job done in critical moments. On the biggest stage against one of their biggest rivals, they do it yet again. And that's all there is to it. But let me know what you think about this game in the comments below, because it really was a fantastic game. I'm not taking anything away from either of these teams. But coming up next, we transition over to the world of college football. Begin to recap a very bittersweet season by looking back at the top 5 players of 2024. We'll be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.